birth in your soul to worship in the difficult places. At the end of class, we were having some really good discussion, lots of good discussion last week, so thank you everyone who participated. But at the end of class, we were discussing, and I said something that I want to explore further. Listening and providing feedback, but you hear things sometimes and you're like, man, that was good. That's wow, weaponizing your worship. Yes. I've never thought of that. That's really good. But if we don't apply it to our lives, it's nothing more than a neat little slogan or something that we say. And so today we're going to get into the application part of weaponizing your worship. It's great to come up with catchy slogans or memorable quotes, but if you leave it there when you leave and don't move on to the application part, it's nothing more than pretty polished words. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do things in vain, right? Brandy agrees. Last week we focused on worship positioning you for breakthrough. This week, we're going to talk about once you're positioned, worship becomes one of your greatest weapons that God has placed in your hands. Sound good? All right, did anybody learn anything last week? Billy and JP learned something last week. Anybody looking forward to learning more this week?
Yes.
All right, yes. There we go. All right, so I want to begin with a question, okay? And I want you to think about this, and I'm going to give you just a second to think about it. Have boom, it's done birthed into something else, and before you know it, we're not praying like we're supposed to, we're not worshiping like we're supposed to, we're not going to church like we're supposed to, like we know we need to. We surround ourselves something that we often forget. If he can come in and distract you and get your eyes on something else, get your eyes on yourself, this is where it starts most of the time. If he can get you distracted, that's great, because you'll stop your worshiping. Because the enemy knows that a worshiping believer is a dangerous believer. Yes. Write it down. Yes. A worshiping believer is a dangerous believer, not because they become louder. He's not worried about your religious tradition act of exuberance. It's not about the volume that you worship at or the volume that you pray at. But when you're a true worshiping believer, you're a dangerous believer because you become more convinced of who God is through worship. So if the enemy can slip in and get you to look over here when God's got you trying to go over this way, then half the battle is already done. Yes?
So I was thinking about the way that we enter into prayer, and a lot of times, especially when we're in difficult places, where we're struggling, our prayers will very quickly and easily resemble like a pleading, begging child. But if we start with worship, it changes our whole mindset before we even go to the throne and ask. And so, as we worship and we enter into prayer, it's more like, I already know what you said. I'm just here to take that, to receive that. Instead of being somebody that's, please God, oh God, please, please, please. It changes your mindset before you even ever offer up prayer. And I think sometimes when we get caught up in those kinds of things, because I catch myself doing that, like I'm begging and I think, why am I begging? It's all the mindset that I went to the throne with. And worship changes that. Worship causes you to be able to boldly go because you're already in the mind frame of what he's offered, what he has, what he possesses, and that he has said that he's going to give it to you. And so it changes the way we even approach prayer, I think. It changes everything.
Yeah. And let's stay here just for 1 second. You're about to put your hand up. Let's stay here 1 second because I think it's important. This is something that we discussed last week. Worship is not standing during 3 songs and singing a song and putting your hands up. That's corporate worship, and that's great. That's great to be with people who believe like you and celebrate like you. But we learned from David last week that it's in a place of worship and presence where you're reminding your soul of who God is.
Yes.
Right? David would say things, you've done this. I know you'll do it again. And so that's worship. So if you're coming from a place of prayer, and we've all been there, I'm going to be honest with you. I've said it before, so I don't mind saying it again. But I was 20-ish, 21. So we're talking about a good span of life, right? And I was frustrated in my prayer life, and I called my mom. And I was like, hello, oh, I'm so frustrated. I feel like Bowser. Oh, I'm so frustrated. What's going on? I said, I am just praying and praying. I'm not hearing from God. I'm getting aggravated because I'm committing a lot of time to prayer, and I feel like I'm not getting through. And so she goes, I'm going to ask you to do something strange. I want you to tell me how you're praying. And so I didn't know the trap had been set. So I walked right into it. And I said, I don't remember verbatim, but I know where I was at that point. I was like, God, you're doing this for so-and-so, and they don't even deserve it. And, well, don't ooh. If you knew the situation, it would make more sense. So, ooh, I'm not going to ooh. You're doing this for so-and-so, and look at what they're doing with it. And I'm a good man, and this is what I'm asking you for, and you won't even give me the time of day. Yada, 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 yada. So I basically spew at my mom the same crap that I was spewing at God, and she goes, look, you're not getting through because you're not even praying. You're complaining. You're airing out grievances. You're not thanking him for anything. It's, I'm mad, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, you're venting. And when she said that, it was like, I have been praying wrong this whole time. So it's easy to get into a place where we go to the Father who listens to every and hangs on to every word that we say. It is really easy to fall into the routine of repetition of just airing out grievances. But is that really prayer? It's really not. So if that's the place that we're praying from, then it's no wonder we're not hearing from the Lord, right? JP, you had something? Do you remember what it was? Sometimes we get close enough to blessings, we don't recognize them as blessings anymore.
Amen.
Right? So when somebody goes, thank you for my wife, thank you for my child, thank you for my car, saying it and walking in it is one thing.
Yeah.
But to hear from someone else, man, my prayer life is not getting through. Well, thank him for your wife, thank him for your child, thank him for your car. It's like we have to go back and tell ourselves, whoa, what have I been doing? Because once upon a time, my wife, child, and car were the biggest blessings that I had in my life. But now I'm close enough that I've kind of gotten used to it. I've taken for granted that I could not have a wife, I could not have a child, I could not have a car. And so worship, what we're talking about, is reminding your soul, you know, it's you preaching to you, God, I need you to step in and do this. But before I even ask, I'm going to thank you for this. Not because you require it, but I need to remind myself that you moved for me then, and you'll move for me now, right?
Yes.
There was hands. Who? Emily?
The reason I oohed is because I've had that same prayer.
No excuse.
It's not an excuse. You know, I think we all go through those times where we see things that are getting given or blessed to other people, and we take for granted that we've had blessings that they don't have. That we've had things that God has given us that they don't get. You know, we always look at what we don't have. We don't hardly ever look at the things that we do. And that's what you're talking about, right? We're supposed to be looking at the things that we do have and learning how to be thankful for the things that we have and holding on to His word. That if He promised you something, it's coming. It doesn't matter how long you have to wait. And it doesn't matter that someone, so-and-so got it before you. It matters that God told you that that's your promise and you're holding on to it with His word. And you have no doubt because you know He's done it before and He's going to do it again.
Yeah, you just have to remind yourself of that. And most of the time, if you're in a funk and you just open your mouth, it's gone, right? And that's something that I know, but that's something that I've chose to walk in over the last handful of weeks, is that God doesn't have to be in the mood. His mood isn't based upon my mood,
That's
right? And so when I'm in a funk, that's it. And by the time you get to this, right, it's over. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot of funk in life that one has to deal with.
Yes.
And so if we're only going to God with love and adoration and, you know, I just want to spend some time with you. I've missed you today. If we're reserving that for when we're in the mood, you'll never go, right? Because what did we just talk about? If the enemy knows that he can come in and distract you, then you'll do the rest of the work for him. Adam, did you have your hand up? Was there another one over here? Billy? Adam?
Something that's kind of blessed me in my prayer life is being a parent. Because a lot of times I look at my relationship with God the same way I look at my relationship that I have with my kids. Because, I mean, how many times have you worked and worked and worked just to give your kids something, and then you give it to them, and then compared to you give it to them,
Yes.
and you're like, look at
That would be an interesting exercise. Every bit of frustration that you feel towards your kids, imagine it from the perspective of God, and maybe it'll create like a new awareness. Billy? Yeah. 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 And sometimes the Lord does let us linger because He knows we're children, and if He allowed Himself to become a genie in the bottle, what are we learning? Preaching to yourself. Remember when? We've been here. We've been through this, and I came out better than I went in. Yes.
The Lord's always interested in teaching us endurance. Because we're running a race and we all start well, excited, full of energy, and there's nothing God, can't do or won't do. But then life kind of moves in and you gotta learn, you gotta
Good man, let her rip.
So when everybody's talking about, having the tools to get out of the funk that you're in, or having a pity party, because we're all human. Sometimes I just want to wallow in my pity. I don't want you to. I know what I need to do to get out of this, but I don't. I want you to just be in misery with me for a minute. Can you do that, please? I don't need any advice. I don't want you to pray for me. I just want you to be in misery with me. Can you do that, please? Like sometimes we get in that situation because we're just so irritated with the way life is. Life, you know.
That's like free food tomorrow. It's in everybody's restaurant. It doesn't come. You get tomorrow. There's another tomorrow. Pharaoh, you can stop this when you want us to shut it off. Tomorrow and the next day, tomorrow. But that, listen to me, that is Sunday to Sunday living, is what that is. Yes. So when Pharaoh's doing it, it's silly. But when we walk out of church on Sunday, hear it, please. When we walk out, the enemy will distract you because he knows that if he allows you the focus to get in and worship, you're about to come face to face with a reminder of who God is, but you're going to become more convinced of who he is, not because of new realization, but because of old ones. You're reminding yourself, you did it then, I know you'll do it now. That's thankfulness, that's faithfulness. All right, so it's worship that reminds us of all the things that he's done. It's worship where you find that he was faithful then, he'll be faithful now. Worship isn't something we do because that's what charismatic churches have taught. We do it because in actuality, our worship is a weapon. By the end of this class, I hope that you see the power behind your worship, and that when you hear the word worship, your mind doesn't automatically go to a Sunday morning at the start of the worship service, because it's so much more than that. That's a great thing to have, but it is the tip of the iceberg. And if you're ever going to learn to stand on your own and walk through things and come out on the other side in the will of God, it's going to be because you learned how to worship by yourself first, right? Because we spend most of our time by ourselves in our own minds. So let's talk about a few things that are going to drive this home. So number Y'all remember it from last week. Number one, worship silences the enemy before it changes the battlefield. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Number one, worship silences the enemy before it changes the battlefield. In Psalms chapter 8, verse 1 through 2, that's what we're going to read. If you're writing that down, I'll give you a second. We're going to Psalms chapter 8, verse 1 through 2. And this is what it says. It says, O Lord, our Lord, your majestic name fills the earth. Your glory is higher than the heavens. Verse 2 says, you have taught children and infants to tell of your strength, silencing your enemies and all who oppose you. Your first breath that you took came from the literal breath of God. From the moment that He's breathed life into you until you finally take your last breath and go home to be with Him, you have been ordained to worship. It's your praise and your worship that silences the enemy. And so this is what we were talking about. The devil slips in, and here he comes with distractions and frustrations and everything that life has to throw at us, and it becomes the loudest thing that's going on in our heads. Some days we're faced with things that it consumes every ounce of energy we have and every thought that we have. That is the voice of the enemy. We're not created to be so fixated on problems that we can't see God in. So when the devil comes in with distractions, it's your praise that silences his voice. When the enemy is still present, your praise silences his voice. When the battle is still raging, your praise is changing the shape of the battlefield. We like to think that the moment we go into praise or worship or prayer or thankfulness, that the sun comes back and the dark clouds go away and our finances are right and our kids are right. We love our car and our dog doesn't use the bathroom in the house anymore. And all the things that plague us throughout the day, they just go away. But we forget that sometimes we're positioned on a battlefield. And if we use our worship as weaponry, which it is, and I'm going to prove it to you by the end of this lesson, if we use our worship like weaponry, we're still in the battle, but the battle has shifted to our advantage. So there's still a war to be won, right? But our worship is what positions us for victory. It's your worship that silences the enemy, shifts the atmosphere, and takes control of the battlefield. Your worship, your weapon is your worship, not just corporately. Get that out of your head. If you get anything out of last week and this week, please come in here and worship. It's good for you. It's good for everybody. Please don't let worship become synonymous with what we do on Sunday for a couple of songs. That's not all that there is to it. Not just corporately, not just on Sunday, not just during your favorite song, not just praise when everything goes right, but in the worst places, in the darkest nights, when it's the most difficult, your worship favors you on the battlefield. Your praise is what becomes the loudest. The Bible teaches us that our worship silences the voice of the enemy. So you're on the battlefield and you lift up your hands in worship, right? Here's our battlefield. You're at work and you are getting it handed to you. Find you a moment, right? And worship through it. You're at home and you have a stack of mail this tall and you know what's inside those envelopes. You don't even have to open them, right? And you know what's inside your account. You don't even have to look. Worship through it, right? When our kids go back and forth and it seems like just when we get them where we want them, we're starting over. It's frustrating, but we worship through it, and we're thankful for the little things.
Yes.
We're more thankful for what we've seen come to pass, come to fruition in the lives of our kids. You find a moment and you worship through it. What voice? No, sorry, I jumped down 2 lines. So let me ask you a simple question before we move on to number 2. All right, I'm going to give you 1 second to think about it. Think about your week, the week that we just come through, right? What voice have I been listening to more this week? Fear, frustration, or faith? Whatever voice is the loudest, if it's not your worship, it's time to put this principle into application and into practice, right? Because there's a lot of voices out there. Point 1 taught us our worship and our praise is the loudest. So when fear and frustration become too loud, you got to turn your worship on, right? Because that's what silences those voices, and those voices are from the enemy. It's not, oh, we're people, this is how we're supposed to be. You are people. You're flesh, and we walk in flesh. We're supposed to be walking in the spirit. We walk in flesh, but when the voice of the enemy grows too loud, it should be a signal to your spirit. I need to turn my worship on, right? Not music. See, how many of you thought radio? Anybody think radio? Not the radio. Turn it on if that's what you need. I've got to get into the presence, right? I've got to find him, and I've got to go to him, and I've got to thank him for what he's done, because I'm going through it right now. And if I can come to reconciliation with all the things that God has done for me in the past, I'll be fully aware that he's going to do it again. Was that your hand? Once people going through it, tap into how beneficial this actually is, you will never walk the same again, ever again. If you can get to a point where trials and issues are instantly like, I got to worship and I got to praise. I got to get in the presence and I got to go to this. I got to get at his feet. Then you'll walk differently the rest of your life. Moving on, number 2. That's like a game show. Wasn't that fun? We're going to do it 3 more times. Really, we got 3, 4, and 5. So worship reminds me whose battle I'm actually fighting. Now, this is a big one. This is a good one. All right. Number 2, worship reminds me whose battle I'm actually fighting. Sometimes we take personal attacks just as that. We take them personal, right? There's a bigger picture, and we're going to talk about it. What we forget or neglect to remember is that we are marked as a child of the Most High. You carry a mark with you everywhere you go. Other people grow to see it and grow to become aware of it, but if you put your spiritual glasses on, you're a target for the enemy because you carry a mark. You're a child of the Most High. The enemy is less concerned with you personally, right? We're just pawns on the board to the enemy. He's not so concerned about you personally and what you think about it and what you feel about it. He's more interested in snatching another one out of the hands of the Father.
Yes.
This is a game of pride, right? My pawns versus your pawns. This is what the enemy is after, is gratification. He just wants to take people away from the Father. It's not so much about you. You're just this treasure that God sees. You're just a treasure from the Father. The enemy used to have that, and he doesn't have that anymore. And it bugs him that you're a much more valuable thing, right? A valuable person than he is. So this is all about getting you away from him and causing division. It feels personal, but you've got to realize this, and you have to know this. Whatever you're going through, and if you look at your life like this, you change your perspective, and a lot of this is based upon our own perspective. It feels personal, but whatever you're going through, it's not an attack on you. It feels that way because we're walking in these shoes, right? No one here knows what it's like to wear my shoes, just like I don't know what it's like to wear yours. If you put mine on, just know you're not going in unless you're like a 9. I got little feet. It feels, and I got little socks too, Jason. It's not just about you. This is an attack on the body as a whole, right? Because it takes everybody to function as the body. And so look at it like this, okay? There's people that we don't know. Let's call them third party friends, right? Everybody's got third party friends. I've got friends y'all don't know, and y'all have got friends that I don't know. But the thing across the board is the same. They're looking at you because you say that you're different. You live different, you talk different, you go through things different. You're different. So here's what the enemy is really after. It's not just you, right? Whatever you're going through, it's an attack on the body. It feels like it's you because you're the one that's going through it. You're wearing those shoes. If the enemy can get you to fall, right, that's one. But if he gets you to fall in front of 3 people that are watching you because you're saying that you're different, that's 4, right? And you can see how that domino effect just goes and goes and goes and goes. We're just pawns on the board. And it feels personal because, again, we're walking through whatever this storm is. But this is a full-out attack on the body. The enemy wants souls. That's what he wants. He wants division between the father and the children.
Yes.
That's what he's after. And if he can get you to fall, and think about this perspective for a minute, if he can get you to fall in front of people that you tell, no, I'm different. I don't act like that. No, we won't be there because we don't want to be around that kind of stuff. No, we're not going to go watch that because we don't feel like getting a babysitter, and I'm not going to let my kids watch that kind of stuff. No, we haven't seen, or heard that new song. You're different. You've been marked. And so if he can take you out, it's not just you. You're just a bonus, right? Chances are you'll probably get back on your feet at some point along the way, right? And that's what the enemy thinks, right? Which is proof that it's not about you. But if I can get him to fall in front of those neighbors that he's been trying to get to come to church, right? If I can get him to fall at Walmart because they want you to self-checkout, but then they want to treat you like a thief when you walk out the front door. If I can get him to fall just as so-and-so's walking in the store, they're done. Because what will the lost say? I knew he wouldn't. He said he was. He's just another Christian hypocrite. I don't want to be around that. If I'm going to be bad, I'm going to be bad all the time. I don't want a foot in, a foot out. I'll get all the way out. And so it is personal because we're walking through it. But it's much more than that. And so if you can approach a situation when next trial you go through and spin it and realize, all right, this is an attack on me. I'm the one that's having to deal with this. But this is an attack on the body too. And if the people that I talk to, when I say, I'm a Christian, I don't live like that anymore. If I fall in front of them, I'm out. Sometime I'll bounce back at some point. And everybody does. When it's deep, deep inside of you, you walk and then you come back to it. But if I fall in front of them, they're gone. That's it. That's the big picture with the enemy. It's not just you. If you fall because a weapon at the hands of the enemy has succeeded, then you're going down, and those that see you as a witness and a testament to who you say you are more than likely going to go take a walk. And you're just a bonus prize. It's not your battle. This battle belongs to the Lord. And we say it all the time. We put it in songs, and he's already won. And why we walk through things that we think caught God by surprise, I don't know. Don't sing it in a song and go, I really believe that. Don't get in a quiet moment and in your prayer go, this isn't even mine. This is yours. I'm walking through it, but you're walking with me. And you've already won this thing. Don't say those things, and then when it hits the fan, back up off of it and pretend like, oh, suddenly there are battles that do exist that God was completely unaware of, and just as surprised as I am, he's surprised too. If we're going to get in it, let's get all the way in it, and let's not straddle it. Let's say these things and speak these things to ourselves, but let's carry them as truth, right? Is everybody mad at me? I knew it when I was in the bathtub. This was going to be a good one. So it is not your battle. Let's take a look at Jehoshaphat, which happens to be Ezra's middle name. Did anybody know that? It's not. Well, I kind of wish it was. It has a good ring to it. Huh. That's true. The older we get, the harder we're gonna have it. We're not gonna be able to say it. It's too many syllables. So let's take a look at Jehoshaphat. Let me set the scene for you. So he's surrounded by 3 separate armies. All right. He's ordered everyone in Judah to begin fasting. Wow. What? That is a lesson in its own. Yes. He's already ordered everyone in Judah to start fasting. He prayed and sought after the very heart of God for wisdom, guidance, and a resolve. Surprise, the Lord hears the cry of Jehoshaphat, and he supplies an answer. Let's not read it yet. Let's ask a question. What will he do? Will he fight with traditional weaponry, or will he weaponize his worship? I don't know. Let's find out. 2 Chronicles. Our God, won't you stop them? We are powerless against this mighty army that is about to attack us. We do not know what to do, but we're looking to you for help. This is a completely normal response. Imagine you're a king and your military, your people, your providence is completely surrounded by not one, not two, but 3 different militaries coming in to take what you got. And I know that we read other stories like this in the Bible, and what happens to the people that are being taken over, it's not good. So as a king, there's some stress and there's some concern, right? You look out and you can see them closing in, right? Your city is fasting, you're praying, you're seeking God. I need wisdom, I need advice, I need understanding, I need a resolve, I need an answer, right? They're closing in. Yeah. Anybody would be stressed. What are we going to do? Save the king and the king goes out the back door? I don't think so. Verse 13 says, as all the men of Judah stood before the Lord with their little ones, wives, and children, the Spirit of the Lord came upon one of the men standing there. His name was Jehazel, son of Zechariah, son of Benaiah. We're going to say that's Benaiah. Son of Jeel, son of Mattaniah, a Levite who was a descendant of Asaph. Verse 15 says, here it is, he said, listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem, listen, King Jehoshaphat. This is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God. Right? And the city went on to worship, and they didn't even use weapons. Right? Totally surrounded. We're about to get wiped off the map. You know that those conversations were taking place behind the walls of that area. We're about to get wiped out, Jehoshaphat. What do you want us to do? Military commanders stressing out. What do we do? Everybody's got to fast. What? I don't think you heard me. We can see them closing in. What are we going to do? Look, we're going to pray and we're going to see what we're going to wait on the Lord. And a lot of people get lost right there. We're just going to wait on the Lord. Well, Lord, the house note is due tomorrow. I don't have time to wait. Lord, the first day of school is approaching. The kids got to have school supplies. I don't have time to wait. I need something right now. So Jehoshaphat says everybody needs to fast. He receives terrible news. The natural response would have been panic. Instead, he has the people fast, he has them pray, and then something unexpected happens. The worshipers go out before the soldiers. We see this time and time again in Scripture. This is not the first instant of it. And there's a reason for that. Because it works, right? It would be insanity by definition to continue to use this tactic if there wasn't a victory on the other side. And so why would they do this? This is crazy. It's unorthodox. Imagine being Jehoshaphat, talking to all the people under your rule and going, I know they're coming. That's old news. We see them. We can hear them approaching. Here's what I need everybody to do. They were expecting, pack a bag. We're going to sneak out the back. We're going to get as far as we can, every man, woman, and child for themselves. They're hanging on to every word, and Jehoshaphat says, everybody's going to fast.
Yes.
That's what we're going to start with, right? So it's crazy. Why would he choose to do this? This is God teaching Israel that victory doesn't come from strength. Victory comes from presence. This is a principle that we should be applying to our lives. If we're not seeing victory, we are utilizing the wrong weapons, right? It doesn't come from strength, how long you've been coming to church, or how many scriptures you know, or what your track record and report card looks like. Victory is only found in presence. It only comes from presence. Sometimes we spend all week trying to fight a spiritual battle with emotional weapons, when in actuality, worship reminds us the battle doesn't belong to us in the first place. But when you're in the midst of chaos, you're not really thinking clearly. But when you go to the presence in an act of worship, you're reminded, I'm fighting a battle that doesn't even belong to me. And so I'm going to be thankful and grateful, and I'm going to let God check in with me when He's ready to provide an answer. And I know it's easier said than done, but there's truth to this. All right, number 3. We're going to bust out these next couple so we can call this done. Worship dismantles lies before it brings down the walls. The enemy's favorite tactic, and rightly so because it works every time, is deception. It's a good one. Deception gives birth to distraction. Most of the time, that's all that it's take. The whispers of the enemies. God has forgotten about you. He's not listening. He's not listening because he caught you doing this, right? Here comes the deception. You'll never change. How many times have you been back to the feet of Jesus to repent of the same things and pray about the same things? You're not going to change. Nothing's ever going to happen. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. That's just the luck of the draw. Or here's one, they're talking about you. Oh, yeah, they're talking about you. People will walk in a room, right, and see other people having a conversation, and the enemy will jump right in their head and go, they're talking about you. And that's all that it takes. I don't want to be in a room full of people that are talking about me, but what are the odds that I walk into a room and I'm just so awesome that there's a group of people who probably didn't even know that I was coming through the door talking about me? How unlikely is that? It's very unlikely. They're talking about you and you won't come to church no more, right? Because two people were having a conversation. The enemy thought, now's the time to do it. They haven't been praying. They haven't been worshiping. They're talking about you. You weren't here on Wednesday. They're talking about you, right? So and so saw you at the gas pump and heard the music that you were listening to, and now they're telling everybody in church. They're talking about you, and you'll question it when it's time to come back. I don't want to go back. They were talking about me. Worship answers those lies with truth and gives you continual access to presence. Presence is a reminder of his faithfulness, its rest, its comfort, it's the reality of your intended nature. Sometimes we get in our flesh and forget that's not our nature. Our nature is spiritual.
Yes.
Billy? Yeah. 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 Sometimes he'll rip a wound so deep that I feel like I'm going through it right now. And it's something that I went through years ago, but for whatever reason, I'm wearing it like it just happened. Those emotions are real. We're actually going to talk about emotions in a second. But those emotions are very real. The enemy is great at what he does. And if he can plant a seed of something last year or from your childhood and bring it back to memory when you're going through it, you don't have to have just experienced. You think you healed, and then you find out, oh, this one is deep. This is deep. You know, you didn't see it coming. Walls don't fall immediately, but the lies of the enemy are dismantled immediately when you go to a place of worship. When the enemy starts doing what he does so well, we shouldn't be telling ourselves, if I can just get to church next Sunday. We should be telling ourselves, I've got to get into the presence right now. I've been here. I've seen this countless times. I don't want to repeat the cycle. And so I'm not going to wait on corporate worship at church on Sunday. I'm going to the presence right now because he doesn't have to be in the mood. And it doesn't matter what my mood is. It doesn't affect the outcome of what he has waiting on me. Number 4. Worship is warfare because it's truth over emotion. This is where we're going to talk about our emotions. Emotions are real. Every single one of us have them. I'm sure this week most people in this room have found themselves on a roller coaster of emotions because that's humanism. That is life. That is what happens to us. And the more we get into the flesh, the worse it is. That's human nature. Emotions are real, but they are without fail unreliable. And you don't know it in the moment. But when you come through it and you look back, you almost laugh at how much worse you made it by living in a state of your emotions. Right? They're real and we feel them, but they are as unreliable as can possibly be. We've been talking about Psalms a little bit between last week and this week, and here's something I didn't notice until I went back and read some of them last night. You can go back to the Psalms, and David is starting from a very familiar place.
Yes.
He is starting from, I'm tore up, I'm bitter, my heart is broken, I'm going through it, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm in search of something, and by the end of the Psalms, he is on top of the word, on top of the world. Psalms were the intimate moments that were recorded of between David and the Father. And so we start in the same place, but we end up somewhere different. If that's the case, it's the middle that is messing us up. We start from frustration and sadness and heartache and just disgust, and I'm exhausted and I've got all these things going on. And instead of going into the presence and being thankful and grateful and worshiping, we just extend that out like on to the end. And by the time the end of our psalm is written, we're in a worse place, right? So David knew something that we didn't. But why did this work for David? What changed? And why does this sometimes not work for us? It can't be circumstance, because sometimes circumstance takes a little time. We talked about that earlier. It's perspective. We're starting in the same place, but if our perspective can shift to a place like David's, where we go into the presence and we're thankful and we're just loving on him. Let's love on him and let him love on us in return. Then your perspective has changes. David's perspectives shifts from emotion to truth. He starts out in an emotional place. This is what I, David, am going through. And by the end of it, he's standing on truth and victory that can only be found when we go into the presence. Presence, worship, adoration, remembering that God is faithful and he hasn't changed. If he did it before, he'll do it again. Your worship in difficult places is your soul's reconciliation with truth. This is the moment that we go back to a place of truth. God, you said it, and I'm going to believe it, right? My emotions don't get the final say. God's truth gets the final say. Number 5, and then we're going to close it up. Worship aligns me with victory before I even see it. So we talked about a couple of these briefly last week, and I thought, this supports this one too. Joshua shouted before the walls fell. Paul and Silas worshiped while they were still in chains. And it doesn't change much for us. This pattern is consistent all throughout the Bible. And again, you have to ask yourself, why do they keep repeating this pattern if it doesn't work? Praise often is what leads to breakthrough, right? Faith worships because of God, who God is, not because of what it's looking at. Your faith is a reminder of who he is. Worshiping in faith, when you feel like you don't feel like worshiping, that's the right time to turn it on. Worshiping in faith is because of who he says he is, not because of what we're seeing. You have to learn how to face something and how to get in the presence all at the same time. We want to face something and then wait until it stops, and then we'll go into the presence. It doesn't work like that. And I'm sure most of you can attest to that. Trying times and victory, trying times and the victory that follows should go hand in hand with your frequency to the prayer closet. If you're not seeing victories, you got to get back in the prayer closet. Worship is the beginning of victory before you can even see what is coming. All right. And then we had some other application stuff we're just going to skip and save for another day. Does anybody have anything else before we close this out? I know we went a few minutes over, but y'all were just talking so good today. I'm not going to shut it down.
There's a note in my Bible, at the story, Paul and Silas, and it just says, true worship burns doubt.
That is good.
It's so true.
Here's a practice everybody should try this week. You know the amount of time that you spend complaining to God, right? That's everybody. That's me too. Stop investing time in something that's already an issue and take that same amount of time and spend it telling him how great he is and see what it does to your week, right? And you'll know when it's coming on because you'll want to go to that place. When it's time to go to that place where you're frustrated about something, choose your words carefully. Take that amount of time and tell him how good he is and see if it doesn't turn around. JP, do you have something?
Say, like, I don't, that's my personality. Well, whenever I sing in Sunday school classes, like, the remembrance of the word comes back to me so much so that I don't even think that I know as much as I know. And just your teaching this morning, I thought about the prophet in 2 Kings, how they were surrounded by enemies, but the Lord pulled back the curtain a little bit and they would see that spiritual army was surrounding them. And then Daniel in the lion's den, how he's having worship through the situation he's in, the three Hebrew boys and fiery furnace. The prodigal son was something I thought for my priorities this morning. Like, just, I don't think I know as much as I should know. And then the Lord's like, so I just think it's pretty cool that the Lord would drop that into my spirit that I know enough to get myself out of situations that I don't really have any excuse to wallow in those situations.
Yeah. Oh, it comes out. In the right time, it comes out. You know more than you think you do. All right, we're going to close it up. Sister Deborah is taking Sunday school offering.